Hello. Hello. Oh, yes, we have a dramatic
Yes, very
entrance
dramatic.
for the great and terrible. I just made that up. B. Dave Walters.
Yes, hello. Yes, it is I. Hi. Hello.
Hello, hi, welcome, and welcome everybody to our first DM deep dive in a little while. So it's nice to be back, and
Yep.
we are fresh off of our last events for 2024. We just returned from the UK where we were having D&D in a castle for a lot of days. We were in a
Yep.
castle for a lot of days, but they felt like not a lot of days. If it was the same for you, B. Dave. They were long days, but they felt short. So welcome, B. Dave Walters, for our DM deep dive. How are you doing? Are we all
Good.
recovered?
Yeah, no, not at all. It's one of the things that I always tell people when they come to these things is it will go astonishingly fast. It will go so much faster than you possibly think. And the strangest moment for me, it never fails when we do these 2 rounds, is going into the second round, realizing the people from the first round are like home. Like they're at work. They're back in their lives. And
Yeah,
and and we're still here doing the thing. It's just a blink and it's over.
it's
It
very
never,
incongruous.
yep, never
Yeah,
changes.
yeah. And so for those who weren't following along, we had two D&D in a Castle events that B. Dave was dungeon mastering at. Uh, it was you, and we even had some guests who were there through both rounds. We
Yep.
had Chronicle Mode, which ran one game across both rounds, so that was like an 8-day game
Mhm.
across two 5-day events. So that has just concluded, and we were all still literally recovering from our jet lag, and we're already talking about the next time we go to D&D in a castle.
Yep.
So we will be announcing tomorrow, but if you haven't received any information yet, we are announcing that B. Dave Walters will be one of our dungeon masters next year in 2025 in the UK
Yep.
at a brand new location.
Yep.
In Darlington, UK, for our lovely summer round, our summer UK round, which is going to be a smaller round in a brand new venue.
Yep.
And it's just going to be 6 tables. It's going to be really sweet and cozy and fun. And we can go outside because it will be the summer.
Yep.
Yay.
I need
Yeah.
y'all
So
to
we
know.
want to hear, we want to
I
hear all about what you've got planned for that, B.
I
Dave.
just
And
need y'all to know how extra I am that when I heard there was a new castle, I wanted to be in the first one. And when we were doing these DM deep dives, I wanted to be the first one. It's my sole motivation. It's the only reason I'm here. Like I'm looking at the calendar and I'm all like, what's the first one? I open or I close. You know what I mean?
yeah.
That's my thing. Yeah. No,
Well,
I'm
that's
looking forward to it. I mean, I've been blessed to. I won't go all into the ancient history for those who weren't there 3,000 years ago, but I have been at every venue except the very first one, Tara, which I won't mention where the first one was. Never went to that one. All the other ones I've been at every venue, so I'm glad to help break in a new one.
That's awesome. Yeah. And we're so excited that you're able to join us. And I've just been reviewing all of the campaign descriptions. And it sounds like there's a lot going on in the game you've got planned for next summer. I think it is called Titans of Doom.
Titans
Am
of
I right?
Doom. Yes,
Titans of Doom. That's what
yes.
our deep dive is called. So I hope that's what your campaign is
You know
called.
that's what it's called now. Like if it wasn't, I'm gonna switch it. But yes, no, it is Titans of Doom. So the way I usually run these things is I tend to have a campaign that I run that year, and that's sort of that year's campaign. And I was blessed to have a wonderful couple from Australia. Those of you that have done D&D in a castle with us, they're kind of they're fixtures. Brett and Glennis Hollandale. And when I was down in Australia, I actually got to play with them a couple of times. And it so happens they played my 2024 game, and they also played my like backup game, my like holdout boot holster game that I can just draw at the drop of a hat. They played both. So they were just at this recent castle, and I had to come up with something completely new because, of course, I've got to deliver. And what I settled on was it is essentially based in the aftermath of the last 3 years events, the things that have happened in my previous campaign. It's like, what is the world? What do all the worlds look like in the wake of that? And the answer is not good. So you all will be facing off. It's instead of like the Justice League forming, it's like the Legion of Doom formed. So it's Tiamat, Vecna, and Asmodeus have teamed up to take over everything, and they are currently winning unless you do something about it.
So big heroics, big save the world heroics,
Well,
and also big high levels. You are well known for running all your campaign. I don't know. Do you run all your campaigns in life at level 20, or is that just what you say for D&D in a Castle? Because all of B-Day's campaign at D&D in a Castle are always level 20
yeah,
from the get-go. Like,
yeah,
forget all of this other stuff. Let's just
yeah.
get powerful and go.
That is definitely the thing I'm known for. Unless I'm doing like longer form streams, I'll start those at the beginning, because obviously when you start at 20, there's not a whole lot further to go. Although I did at least one stream where we started at 20. Yeah, but for the most part, that's the thing I'm known for. And it's when I got into this industry at the time, fewer than 5% of campaigns had level 20 characters in them. And that wasn't just people that had played from 1 to 20, that was had even made level 20 characters. And coming up on comic books and superheroes and all of that stuff, I like big stories. I like fate of the world, fate of the universe type stories. And I also wanted people to see that level 20 is not so bad. And I think I've accomplished that over these years. There's definitely a sharp uptick in people doing it. It's funny because people think the game is so much more lethal at 20, but it's not. The game is most lethal from 1 to 3, when you can get crit by a goblin and get killed and no one can heal and no one can resurrect. At level 20, you just have a lot more options. In the game, because becomes less about what can you do, because everybody can do everything, and it becomes more about what should you do. And that's the kind of stories I tell, and the people who've been at my table can tell you I sort of put more than a few moral quandaries in front of you, that it's not so simple as to just start throwing fireballs.
Yeah, and how do you what do you do in your games to sort of motivate people at that level, to sort of drive the characters, when they can when they're powerful, they can do anything to prevent them getting comfortable, or to, keep them on their toes. And as characters from a story point of view as well, not just a tactical point of view,
Mhm.
how does that change the game at that level?
Usually, I have an inciting incident where probably the gods themselves have asked you for help. It's not always the gods, but usually by that point. Because one of the things that I've seen many times, especially you DMs, give you a little hint here. Um, you can waste a lot of time starting off in the tavern trying to figure out why people are going to talk to each other and why they're going to go.
Mhm.
It is much, much faster to be like, either you've literally all been called up at once and you're going to find out what you're going to do, or even, especially if you let the group know in advance, it's you've already agreed. You've already said yes to the mission. What you need to tell me now is why. This character that you've conceived of, why would they agree to go to the mountain and throw the ring in? Because otherwise, you can burn up just a lot of time having people be like, "Oh, but I wouldn't. I can't travel with a dwarf." Whereas I'm like, you already said you would. So let's get to why would you do that? Let's start chewing on that. And after that, it all just kind of unfolds organically. One of my mutant abilities is I have, oh, hang on, let me turn my air off. Wait, can you hear that? I don't want to sweat in here for no reason. Can you hear that, y'all? No?
I
Check. You
can't.
good? Great,
I
fantastic.
can't hear anything.
Noise gate. One of the things I'm good at is extracting character details out of people and then weaving that in and then giving it back to you. And there is a particular sequence in this one that is pretty emotionally grueling, and I kind of warn everybody in advance. And it's good because what I find is the people that come to D&D in a Castle have already made a significant commitment to this, right? I mean, they've made a not insignificant financial commitment, a not insignificant time commitment. They put their life on pause to travel across the world. Sometimes some people across the whole world, like some people traveled upwards of 30 hours to be there. In For the most part, if they're at the table, they're there in good faith. In what I explain it as, there's situations where it's like, um I don't know, the mayor's house is on fire and the mayor's wife is up in the window, screaming for you to help her. And there's people that come at it what I call coming at it this way, the like trench coat katana guys that are like, for the greater good, sacrifices must be made. And then there's the people that come at it from, the heart forward, which is what's really important, where the fact that you're like, oh, I know the mayor's wife. I've had this relationship with her. Or maybe she is corrupt, but that doesn't mean she should die. Or whatever. Or maybe she is corrupt and this is God's retribution, my God's retribution. But it's how the character would really interact in the world. And being able to come at it that way is most important, especially at the high level, because chances are you probably have a spell or ability that could fix a problem pretty quickly. Probably. I'm pretty good at creating problems that it's not that simple. But if you don't allow yourself to really inhabit that person, like put on that mask, as I say, then it doesn't hit nearly as hard. In so I need somebody that wants to be a dance partner. And I gotta say, I've had, let's see, over 120 people at my table by this point. Like we're closing 100, 130, 140. I don't know. And I've been blessed that every time people have shown up to play the game. And I've been very fortunate in that sense.
Can you give an example, or can you think of a time or a story where um, you created an encounter that surprised some of the players in terms of not just like, oh, I didn't know there was going to be a Tarrasque there, but in terms of,
Oh,
the stakes or
I'm
the
like,
backstory.
that's my secret. There's always a Tarrasque. Um, it's one of the very first stories I ever told. The first stream I ever did, in fact, was called Theogony of Kairos. I started them at level 0 because the premise is they were going to be chosen by the gods to be the new avatars of the gods and jump to level 20. And I started them at level 0 because I needed to build up the town and who was in it so that it would mean something when they were in peril. That again, it's not just the goblins are chasing the baker's daughter, it's the goblins are chasing Sarai, your first love, that we've taken the time to establish, and they're going to react differently. So when the time came, there was a goblin invasion of this town. They're all level 0, so they lose badly. And they were taken hostage and they were imprisoned by the goblins. And it's in the prison that the gods come to them and offer them, to be the new avatars, which of course they agree to. So these goblins have been terrorizing them for 3 or 4 episodes at this point. So of course they go crazy and disintegrate, meteor swarm, steel wind slash. They're just wrecking these goblins because of course they are. They're level 20. And they kick in the door to the room and it's the nursery and it's full of little baby goblins. And I'm like, well, what would you like to do? And if they'd just been like Fireball, I'd have let them. I mean, the world would have required something further down the line. But they're like, oh, well, they're just babies. We can't do anything. And I'm like, well, great, but you just killed all their parents and this building's on fire. So now what? And it was just like that, that they went from like pew 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 pew, hooray, to like, oh no, the consequences of my own actions. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I do a lot of stuff like that. A lot of
What
stuff.
what percentage of your games end in tears, would you say?
100%, 100%, 100%. I judge my success by how quickly I can make someone cry, not because I want people to be sad. Quite the opposite.
Mhm.
Your job as a storyteller and as a dungeon master is to elicit an emotional response. And it is one of the purest emotional responses that you can get, that a human being is present enough and feeling something that they can allow themselves to go to that place. Because they're not always sad tears. Often they're happy tears. Often I can tell when it's sometimes people are getting emotional and it's not even this catharsis. It's not even this story at all. It's a different kind of catharsis. Like I had a person recently who their character's backstory was Zariel is their mother. Zariel is this iconic fallen angel. And that was just their backstory, which I knew Zariel was going to show up in the story. It was purely coincidental. And every time Zariel came up, he started kind of getting really emotional. And part of that character's whole thing is that she can be redeemed. And so, he's a big tough guy. And but he's getting really emotional every time. And we end up having this whole like really intense moment where she ultimately um sacrificed herself to save him, and he's like weeping openly, and he's not that dude. Like I know this guy, but I was like, so something else is happening here, but I'm gonna honor it and we're gonna live into it. And it turns out he'd lost his mother recently, and being able to interact with his mother and uh losing her again, although spoiler alert, she was restored and it all worked out fine. But being able to kind of say the things to his mother he didn't get to say to his real mother, and getting
Mhm.
actually to say goodbye and have some closure, you know what I mean, is all was the human feelings that he was actually feeling that just sort of came and got expressed through our little game.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Do you think you would have included those things if you'd had that information? Because I know, like, or how much do you learn about the players before they get there, and how much do you dig, and how much do you sort of say, this is the game, and you end up in the game that you're going to end up in versus this is a game that I'm going to, try and find out as much as I can, and in terms of incorporating the real life stuff, or was that just coincidental that you didn't know that? And
It
I mean,
was
you
it,
didn't.
it was purely coincidental. Different people have different approaches to this. I know
Yeah.
some of my colleagues, and you'll hear people talk about this, work for months and months and months, talking to the people and integrating things. I don't, and I do this on purpose. I have the absolute minimum amount of contact beforehand that I can have with the group, because I intentionally want it to be, you've come through the looking glass. Here I am, you know, now let's play. I personally feel like that's reduced when we've talked a whole bunch of times and been on Zoom and everything, and then you get there. But that is solely just my opinion. That's again,
Right.
everybody's
Yeah.
does it their own way. Um, so had I known that the fact that he put in his backstory that Zariel was his mother, I probably still I would have done exactly what I did. I would have had her show up. I would have had her show up non-aggressively, and I would have played it by ear with him when he went. Because I had an experience years ago on the first stream that I was a player in, and I was with someone who we were playing a married couple,
Mhm.
and we had to like make up her family and stuff because like the part of that story is we were sort of from different stations, this kind of Romeo and Juliet kind of thing. And I was asking, it's like, well, okay, so what's your dad like? Is your dad a bad guy? And she's like, no, I need my dad to be a good guy because my real dad isn't. So I need my fantasy dad to be.
Oh, wow.
It- and what I've taken from that is every single story I tell since then, unless someone expressly tells me my parents are bad, I always make parents fantastic because I
Right.
realize not everybody has that. Like,
Right.
parents are always loving and supportive. I had a very different story that I told once. It wasn't even a D&D story, in fact, and it ended up being a time travel thing. Like
Mhm.
their father had buried the MacGuffin in the yard or whatever, and so they kind of had to go back in time and meet and talk to Dad, who had passed away in the character's story. And at the end of it, I just had him say, I love you, son. I'm proud of you, and hug the person. And the human messaged me later saying how much that meant to them because their real father had never done that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think those kinds of things are very important. Um, yeah, I was honored to get to
Mhm.
kind of go through that with him because it just so happens it was 2 years to the day that I'd lost my dad,
Oh,
and
wow.
so I'd lost my dad and he'd lost his mom very recently, and we sort of just had a thing that was able to live in that moment, and it was beautiful. And again, I'm very grateful to him for allowing us to have that.
That's really cool. Um, yeah, there's you can never know everything about your players. Like you're never gonna know that. And
Mhm.
but these magical things, and I think that's the magic of D&D for a lot of people, is that you come to the it's almost like a Ouija board, where you come to these things and you don't know who's really directing it, but you're kind of all directing it, and like, your subconscious and your unconscious and all these things, they tend to kind of come together in a way.
One of the people here in chat, Shaz, is like, "You got me the first session." I'm like, "I did, but I did, yes." But I would submit, Shaz, you were present and available, but I think those early scratches, it wasn't quite the story. Yes, some things happened in the story that were very emotional very quickly. Yes. But I think you were a available emotional human. I don't know to what extent I had earned it in the first session, Says. You gotta tell me if I earned it the first session.
We
But
do have a question in the chat, and please do comment and question in the chat, but I'll let you finish your thought, B Dave, because it seemed like you're about to say something.
yeah, just one thing. And anybody that's followed me for a while, you hear me say this a lot. The thing that makes tabletop games special, that makes D&D special, and why video games will never completely replace it, is your mind doesn't know the difference between what is real and what is vividly imagined. It is why you can wake up from a nightmare and your chest is pounding. You in every way that matters, when you have these experiences that you're vividly imagining and have the emotions that go with it, it's real. I mean, once the game is done, bringing down that dragon is in the exact same box in your mind as prom, which is
Yeah.
why you have these like meaningful connections with
Mhm.
the content and the people that you went on those journeys and adventures with. Um, and the emotions are real, and the memories are real, and that's why that is one of the reasons that I feel so blessed to get to be able to do what I do. Um, is to help people feel those things and express those things. And I mean, obviously, I don't mean to sound overly grandiose. It's not therapy that we do, but it is still possible to express some things and let them out in a way that is so cathartic, and you feel so much lighter afterwards that very few things can duplicate.
Yeah, I agree. I do want to ask the question, one that's come through in the chat, which is, what keeps you coming back to D&D in a castle?
Somebody asked me that. Yeah, because we've established it's between me and Mark, Mir, and Elisa for who's done the most. If you include the weekends, it's down to me and Mark, and it's close. He may be narrowly ahead of me. I'm not sure, but I'm coming back before he is. So what? But yeah, we counted it up, and I mean, I've done, like over 20 tables. I've lost count, and I think it's these experiences that I was just saying. I mean, going to the castle is nice, but again, I mean, I've been over to the castle like 10 times now. Like, it's great, but I mean, I've done that. So it's
Yeah.
not that. Um and even a significant portion of the people that are there are repeat people. So by definition, they've been back too. I think it is that ability to be able to hit pause on life and focus on this one thing, going on this one adventure with this one group of people, and being able to give it your full attention and your all. um that is something, because I mean, I've been blessed to be able to do this a lot of places on the biggest stages with the best people, and that ability to just not have to do anything but that, to not have to worry about where your next meal is coming from, to not have to worry about where you're going to get coffee, to just only have to focus on the game. And uh in that, everything that I just said was true. Even though I'm on the other side of this telling the story, those memories are still getting registered in my mind just the same. The his tearful goodbye to Zariel, it lives in me just like it lives in him. And I'm able to do that exponentially because I'm every character and I'm every situation, in every moment that human being is having that real emotional response. I'm on the other side of it, giving it right back to him. Yeah, and that's it is a beautiful thing, which again, I'm blessed and fortunate to get to do.
Well, we're very blessed and fortunate to have you come to so many of our castles, B-Day. We love having you, and the guests are always so excited to play with you. Um, So for those who are just joining us or who are just learning about this, B. Dave Walters is here to talk about his participation in D&D in a Castle, and in particular, the fact that he is going to be one of our dungeon masters and is the first dungeon master to have a DM deep dive from among those who are going to be running games at D&D in a Castle next summer. We have 2 events of D&D in a Castle next year in the summer. We also have spring and fall, but the summer ones, we have one in the US and one in the UK, both happening around July-ish. The UK one is from July 13 to 17. In Northeast England, at a lovely castle there that we'll be using for the first time for D&D in a Castle. It is in Darlington, if anybody knows where that is, which is not even in a county. It used to be in County Durham, and now it's just its own thing. So it's just in Darlington. But it's a lovely space, and we're going to have a great time, and it's going to be quite a small, intimate event of just 6 tables, whereas we sometimes have as many as 12 at a single event. So everyone will really get to know each other. And if you would like to come and play a game with B. Dave and at D&D in a Castle and escape from reality for 4 whole days, being fully catered for and your imagination fully challenged and expanded. I fully agree with what B. Dave was just saying, that it's incredible to be able to escape, even to, face incredibly stressful situations like confronting Vecna and Tiamat, God knows what. As long as it's the only thing you have to do, actually, that's kind of, in my experience, a lot less stressful.
But they're features, not bugs. In my last group, again, I'm blessed to have some of them in chat right here. They made the comment because one of the first things you do is people kind of talk about the adventure and which way they think it's headed. And my group said, we're going after Tiamat because that's the easiest thing we'll have to do. And everybody else's jaws just dropped. Like, hey, hang on, wait, I have to give props to my girl here. Wait. Yep, just props to the Queen of Dragons here. I always, yep.
Gorgeous.
Yep. She's never far away. She's never far away.
In her most colorful form, is it?
Yes, always, perpetually.
All in her glory.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, lovely. So you are running the game Titans of Doom at D&D in a Castle, July 13th to 17th in the UK. Would you like to take us out, B. Dave? We've been so loved hearing you talk about D&D, and we could talk forever. If you want to
we
got
questions. No, we got questions.
We got questions.
We do.
Okay, I just saw this first one. That's the first one I've seen. With running high-level campaigns culminating with Titans of Doom, what sort of campaign can you run as a follow-up?
Oh man, let me get through 2025. I mean, I've had pretty significant stakes. I've had Tiamat, Bahamut, and their brother Null trying to figure out who would run reality. I had Mistra imprisoning and replacing all the gods and wanting to kill him. I had Tasha controlling all of time and space because she was afraid of dying again. And now I had Vecna kidnapping the Raven Queen so that he could use the infinite flow of souls as his undead legions. And then now Tiamat, Vecna, and Asmodeus teaming up. So I don't know what would be next, because also I do a lot of setting hopping, where it's you'll write on a Spelljammer for a while, and then end up in Sigil for a while, and visit the Sword Coast and things like that. So I think, and I don't want to mess with anybody because you got to come and play this one first, but I think if there's one thing we haven't explored, it's the Underdark. I've had Lolth show up a couple of times, but we haven't gone to the real Down Under, not yet.
Cool. And interesting. So come and play with B. Dave and try that campaign, and then ask about follow-up.
Yes, definitely. Also, I do see that Binary Kitten has mentioned the Almighty Xanathar. To which I have to say,
Take the words out of my mouth because I was going to ask you about the Almighty Xanathar.
to which I have to say, the Almighty Xanathar does not require sprinkles for Silgar. Silgar already gets the finest sprinkles. He gets gold leaf sprinkles, filigree, you might say, brought over from the finest pools. Only the most optimal scum is fed to my sweet baby Silgar. How dare you question him? Although the Almighty Xanathar is choosing to believe that you were looking out for Silgar's best interests, and as that you will be allowed to live.
For those who are not at D&D Castle this fall, one of the highlights for me, and I was just about to ask you, Dave, about that, was that in the evenings we were visited by Xanathar, who was intercepted
that is the
by
Almighty Xanathar,
Tasha,
the Almighty Xanathar.
the
Thank you.
Almighty Xanathar, who had summoned a Tarask to attack our castle, and the players were assisted. Initially, at least assisted by Tasha to fight back Xanathar because I think she just didn't like his face in that moment. And that was an enormous amount of fun. And I wanted to ask you because you say you've been back to D&D Castle many times, and but it is different every time. Not just partly because the players are different, the game changes, and you can play the same game with the same players 100 times and it can still be different.
Right.
But in terms of the event itself, things iterate and we take on input and we reflect after every event and think about how we can make things more fun, more interesting, do things unexpected. And we did some stuff this time that was maybe a little bit different. I wonder what your favorite things that happened this round were in terms of the event itself.
So here's the thing. I was told the Almighty Xanathar was there. Never saw him. We were never in the same room
Never
at
in
the same time.
Room at the same time.
Like that's but I've been told he was there. Yeah. That was a lot of fun. Although I will tell you, a strange thing happened. Is the first round. I gave an absolutely terrifying, villainous monologue right before we went to dinner on the third day. And everybody just kind of sat there stunned. You could hear a pin drop. And I was like, and that's what we're going to break for dinner. And then I had to come upstairs and I was like, I'm Xanathar. And then right after dinner, I had to go back to being like, so as you can see, it is hopeless. And and I just had to switch those gears, but I love the Almighty Xanathar so much. He and all beholders are just doofuses with nuclear reactor eyes, and I just love them. Yes, and I've been told that the Almighty Xanathar pretended to be me during some meals. He even was able to lull my group into a false sense of security, which was I understand the resemblance between us is striking. I too have big, beautiful eyes. Yeah.
There you go. That's what it is. Wonderful. Well, we are so looking forward to coming back to D&D Castle and getting to hang out with you for more time with you specifically. And so to everybody watching, come to D&D Castle, hang out with B Dave and the rest of us and play an amazing game of D&D and escape from reality for a while. So I'm going to ask you, B Dave, to take us out, as always, from our D&D Deep Dive with an invitation to players to come and join you for Titans of Doom at D&D Castle this July in the UK.
Yes, it is an incredible campaign. That is not me saying that. Other people have said that. I let me see how quick and seem. Wait, Tara, stall. I got
Stall?
Wait, hang on. No, wait, I already got it. So here, this is just, I asked for any testimonials, and this is things that two people said last night, and I'm going to read both of them to you real quick.
Yeah.
One of them said, sitting at a table being DM'd by B. Dave Walters is unforgettable. He will make sure everyone's safety and emotional well-being is looked after. If things get too emotionally changed, he actively checks in on you as well. You'll be pulled into a tale of triumph or torment if the dice want to tell that tale. And at the end of each session, I was looking forward to what would happen next, even when characters face their peril. This is a longer, beautiful one. And then the other one was, playing D&D with B. Dave Walters at D&D in the Castle was an experience that I will never forget. From the moment we first sat down at the table, he helped weave a story that was filled with emotions and a degree of depth that really brought our characters to life. His expansive knowledge of the game and the way he recalled each detail of our characters kept us invested, as we knew each choice we made was effectively changing the world we were playing in. They say more nice things, which I really appreciate. So if you have the chance, if you have the opportunity, to sit at the table, I would love to have you there. And if by chance it is not at my table, but somebody else's, because different people do this all different. There's different DMs, and everyone is a different thing. It's all like we're different gourmet chefs. So there's something for everybody. And one way or another, when you see me there or you see me anywhere, be sure to say hey and what's up.
Awesome. Well, I'll be saying hey and what's up at the castle very soon. And if this sounds like a good time to you who are watching, come and join us. We would love to have you, and we will see you all soon.
Oh, many